If you were given $50,000 so you could chase your dream, what dream would you chase? If you were given $50,000 so you could chase your dream, what dream would you chase? Yup. Went to college for a degree that gives me a lucrative career. I make very good money just starting out, graduated last month, but as soon as my student loan bills start hitting in 6 months, then it's as if I'm not making a lot. And the only way I could have made this type of money in the field I really enjoy was to go to school. The only way for me to go to school was to take out private loans. Moral of the story is that college is too damn expensive. My father was a blue-collar worker. Worked a labor job in a steel mill all his life, still is working, and he's damn near 70. I'm an engineer. Busted my ass in college so I could get here and work more of a white-collar job, although I'm out of the job site a lot. A lot of money to me for income is in the 6-figure range, since my family was never able to obtain that. And I'm pretty close to that range, just not there yet cause I'm an entry-level engineer. As for college, fuck. It's all expensive. Community colleges are cheaper, but their degrees aren't nearly as respected as major universities. Most CCS won't offer engineering or some sciences honestly. I spent $20,000, tuition, a year on school. That doesn't include books, apartment rent, food, etc. My parents made too much money for the government to deem me deserving of financial aid, but my parents made way too little money to actually pay for my education. They were only able to co-sign for me, and that's it. For what it's worth, I was in more or less your same position 10 years back when I started my career. $70,000 salary, $60,000 debt. I made the personal choice to prioritize paying that debt over all else. Bonuses, tax refunds, all extra cash went to the loans. I managed to pay them off in full after about 4 years, and have spent the last 6 without debt as my salary grew. I still work with a few folks from my start class, and while we all make 3x our starting income, most of them still have monthly loan payments and have spent thousands more on the interest. Unsolicited financial advice is the worst, so all I'll say is the payments do suck up front. It's a broken system, to be sure. Even with all that being true, it sounds like you've put yourself in an excellent position and will be free of them soon-ish. Honestly, this is harder to do than you think. I busted my ass and lived on nothing for years so I could use nearly all my income to pay down debt. If I could beg, borrow, or steal $1 somewhere in the budget, it went to pay down debt. Then I woke up with no debt years down the road, but also if I think about enjoying any of my money I get massive anxiety. End result is that I still live the same way I always did. I just put every dollar I can beg, borrow, or steal in savings, or I give it to some charity. I feel guilty if I spend on myself now because that's the behavior I learned while digging out of debt. Stupid thing is I saw my grandparents do the same thing. They were Depression-era people and grew up with absolutely nothing, so they saved every penny. Even after they became well off financially, they still stash ketchup packets from MCDs so they don't have to buy ketchup, and my grandmother laments that she wants to grow tomatoes but can't afford tomato sticks. They have being cheap baked into their DNA now. Currently working in the medical field, that's an entirely different situation though, and not the same thing. Operating on the wrong leg is negligence on the surgeon's part. A surgeon has to discuss with and have the patient sign off on the surgery that's being done, which usually includes an added text and any other indicated procedure. A patient cannot sue for having additional operations added onto the previously agreed surgery, though justification on the surgeon's part is required. And even before the operation begins, there's a room timeout where everyone in the room has to confirm the site of operation and what's being done. So, malpractice is entirely different and does not fall under a waiver in any right. Just a bit of nifty information. Yeah, but if you can prove the course owner was negligent in maintenance or construction of the track, or didn't provide adequate safety features, which might include on-site EMT or first responders, or even failed to disclose potential issues such as ruts, divots, or other terrain features that might inhibit safe racing, you can sue and will likely win. That's why every professional race yard will have liability insurance. In this nation you can't just say racer beware and take on all liability and risk. There's hundreds of laws from county to federal level against that action. Racetracks, skiing hills/centers, paintball, airsoft, horse riding ranches, amusement parks, water parks, even city parks and zoos have liability insurance because all the signs and common sense in the world isn't going to save you if some meathead decides to climb into the tiger pit and play with the fuzzy kitties. Someone is going to argue, and win, that there should have been higher fences or a sign that states the tigers are wild or some inane shit. Cute, guaranteed not gonna stand up to even casual scrutiny by a drunken lawyer. Lawsuit don't have to win in court to completely break a small business owner, eat enough in filing fees and the business can't stay solvent. I'm advocating for the person to protect themselves personally from such, potentially, underhanded crap. In the event that they are liable, due to negligence for instance, the LLC and insurance provide a safety net as well. They may not get their business back, nor should they necessarily, but it can keep them from being personally indebted and wiping out their family's assets. If we put our 50Ks together we could smuggle drugs and buy all the planes you want, brother. Start ourselves a shady flight school. You can teach flying and servicing planes or what have you, and I'll eventually get investigated for accidentally enrolling some terrorists who seemed pretty on the level about being aerial acrobats and I'll die in a shootout that involves a plane and a duffel bag of cocaine somehow. The dream. And maybe you take one young kid under your wing because he's being bullied a bit and he reminds you of yourself, and you don't want him to make the same mistakes you did at that age. And his mom is kinda hot. But this jerk car salesman in town opens a competing dojo leveraging his celebrity from a fight that was like 30 years ago. And he always plays this holier-than-thou card about defense and cars and crap. What a jackass. So you put your protege in the annual tournament up against his best fighter who is, holy crap, your estranged son. God, this is tense. Even considering the damage done by Trump, Reagan is by far the worst president we've ever had. We wouldn't have had an uneducated base that voted Trump in. We'd have affordable health insurance, better pay for the middle class, and affordable education. The damage he did to the middle class financial mobility permeated through to create every imaginable disadvantage we currently suffer, and it will be felt for the remainder of this country's life. I left my good-paying job at 30 to pursue a career in music after seeing what it does for people all over the world. My area of the UK is poverty-stricken and one of the poorest areas in Europe, so I'm told. I would approach the landlady and secure the property. She's very old and I'm not sure how long it will be before she passes, and if the building goes it will cost me a lot more than £50,000 to rebuild this for the community. I'd use it as seed money for a non-profit. I want to help pay preschool tuition and expenses for families that can't afford it on their own. Studies have shown that going to preschool is one of the best, least expensive predictors of long-term financial success, so helping to cover that initial cost could help build generational wealth in communities where it's currently lacking. It's a long game, but I really want to try it. I would take 1 year of sabbatical leave and go on a big trip. Beginning with Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan. Then a week in a tropical island. Russia and Mongolia. Next I would take my time in Europe. South America. Canada. Another tropical island. Then I will come back, and if there's still something I will take a few weeks out to play games and having nothing to do. I would invest all this money so I get more money, then I try to donate $10K every month to charity, only if I have money for me too. So my dream is just to help as much as I can. If I die 50% of my money, and the rest of the things, will go to my family/friends. I want to make a treasure hunt using question about me, and the other half to go at as many charities at go. Sorry for my bad grammar. Have a nice day. Open a local bakery. I love baking and have always daydreamed about being that friendly bakery shop owner you pick up your locally made breads from, who also supplies fresh baked goods to homeless shelters. If I became a millionaire, I would just open a bake shop and run it at a loss until I died, giving away free bread to basically anyone. I'd do like a one for me, one for you thing where every item sold got matched by the shop and given away. 2 things. A. This is nowhere near enough for the real dream, but please don't think I'm shallow. I'll explain. B. With this I'd turn my house/property into an oasis for me and my kids. I want to be the house where they bring their friends so I know they're safe. I'd do the pool, yard, game room, etc. Back to A. The big dream is to take my dad's farm that I'll inherit and turn it into a camp. I would do a big pond for fishing, canoeing and kayaking. Cabins and a lodge. Horses and stables. Archery and shooting ranges, hiking and biking trails, ropes courses, and orienteering. All kinds of things my dad did there when he was a kid. And it would all be handicap accessible, with camps offered periodically only for kids with disabilities to give them specialized opportunities. This means in addition to the money to build and staff the camp, we'd need tons for insurance, etc. $50G would be a drop. But I can dream about it. I teach at a Title I school. Most of the students live below the poverty line. Many kids have at least one parent addicted to drugs. It's not uncommon to hear a student talking about how their house was raised over the weekend. It's bad. I love these kids though, many of them are so sweet and in any other circumstance would be thriving. Anyways, a dream of mine would be to run a non-profit art program in my community for these kids. Free painting supplies and lessons, a safe place to create art, art therapy, and learning ways to express themselves through art. I really think it could help kids. I'd try to appeal my conviction that cost me my future from being in law enforcement. Took a plea deal on the advice of my private attorney, blew up in my face. Hired a more experienced attorney. The entire time he said, "Why did you even plead guilty? The entire case should have never went past the preliminary hearing." Whole associate's degree in criminal justice. Absolutely useless now. Can only hope for a breath of fresh air in my life. Been living in limbo for 4 years and it feels like just yesterday when I lost my only dream. I once volunteered at a wildlife rehabilitation center, and pretty much fell in love with the place. It's a non-profit organization, so it runs entirely on public donations and volunteers. Unfortunately, I now live quite a ways from the area in which it's located. I'd immediately move to the town where the rescue is located and find an apartment or something, find a job, though that would be somewhat difficult, as there's not a lot of jobs in that area that pay a living wage. Nonetheless, I'd try to eke out a living and volunteer in my spare time. I'd be perpetually exhausted, but it would be worth it. I have an idea for virtual reality gameplay, like live-action role-playing, LARP. Virtual reality gear where you have to actually wander around to have encounters, like Pokemon, and can interact with other players as well as virtual NPCs. Maybe you wanna be a gunslinger or train robber in the Wild West. There's a VR area/simulation. Swords. Sorcery. Steampunk. Maybe mystery-based. Start a taco truck called Gringos Burritos. I fucking love cooking Mexican food. We'd have it all. Tacos, quesadillas, burritos, chimichangas, tamales, everything. All the meats, pollo, asada, cabeza, goat, even vegan options. It's really easy to make vegan Mexican food. I've looked it up. It will cost me about $20,000 to $30,000 for the truck, then another $5,000 or so for licensing, $5,000 for truck renovations, upgrades, and wrap with the name. That will leave me with about $10,000 for supplies and cash in the bank if I need it. It would be enough to allow me to pursue writing and blogging full-time, hopefully to a point where I earn a proper wage from it. I'd really love to be able to make money out of it, and be able to set my own work hours. I suffer from a disability that means I can work full-time, but it means I'll be unable to cook and I'll need my boyfriend to wash me, because I'll be too exhausted. Alternatively, I could do videos about in-depth film review, which is a nerdy passion of mine, or I could try out being a YouTube or Twitch game. That would give me a year for rent, equipment, and amenities set up on a small food joint including a few food orders, even know the currently empty space to go into. Across the street is a Catholic high school, around 2,200 students, and one block down, my side of the street, public high school with about 3,000 students. Within 4 blocks, 5 high-rise apartment buildings, a few smaller apartment buildings, plus single-family houses. I'd say close to one half are cut up into apartments. Will everyone come to my shop? No. But school cafeteria food sucks enough that I know I'd make a profit. Won't get rich, hard to do that on any restaurant in Ontario, but can live comfortable. I think I'd buy a small flat, hunker down for the year and write a novel. Yeah. Maybe even would manage to pay off student loans with that, and still have the money to focus on the novel. Or get a weekend job, but write Monday, Friday. It's the guilt of I should be doing something else that deters me from writing a lot, should be applying for a job, should have been studying, should have taken that extra shift on, or I'm too tired after work to actually write. A year off with money to sustain myself, and I reckon that novel would be mine. I'd use it as a down payment on another rental property. That would put me at the FHA exemption max. Single-family housing sold or rented without the use of a broker if the private individual owner does not own more than 3 such single-family homes at one time. So I'd have 3. My single-family home. 2 rental properties. I like being FHA exempt because it gives me freedom in who I rent to. I can be extremely picky in my tenants, and I am, but because I can mitigate so much risk, I rent below market value. For example, some things which I can do, which may be illegal otherwise. No one under 21. Don't want to rent to kids on their own for the first time who don't know how to do basic things like clean. No undergrad students. I don't want the place to be a party house. No children. Kids are more destructive than pets. No government assistance. People take better care of things when they are paying for it themselves. No violent criminal history, or drug sales. I don't care if you've been arrested for pot, or even a single DUI. But I don't want you dealing out of my property, or having a violent history. $50K really doesn't change my path in life. We have our first kid due in August, so I'd probably just start a fund for her. It's a perfect amount of money to be significant and very helpful, but also not life-changing. I do consider that $50K invested wisely right now would probably be enough to not need to worry about paying for college for our kid in 18 years. That money alone could probably be $150K in 18 years, and if we continue to add to it, it'd likely be enough to let the little one go anywhere without crippling debt. I'd use it to quit my job and focus on my business idea. I want to work with artists, and help them build their businesses. I'm having a tough time doing that due to lack of energy after work. But I'd love to do that for the next 30 years or until I'm dead. Also work on my own creative work as well. I've got so many ideas in me, but I feel like all that creativity is being drained because of the need for a paycheck. I feel like if I had a business, with more potential, it'd give me enough creative energy to make a living, and also pursue my creative ideas.